Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you are doing well in these phenomenal times of change and transformation, which are moving at a rapid pace as we are in the time of the now, and all, let's say, timelines and possibilities are all converging in the now moment, which means that everything is pretty much changing in an instant. So I hope you are coping well with that, managing that personally, professionally, in all walks of life, and that you're managing to take time just to catch your breath, so to speak, because things are moving phenomenally quickly, and there's no chance soon that they'll be slowing down. Apologies for the long gap in the time it's been since my last video and this one. Obviously, I've had to contend with a phenomenal amount of stuff this end that has been going on for a number of months in terms of my own health and well-being, but also in terms of energy, let's say moving energy through and feeling energy on behalf of the collective, and also being very much drawn personally to be getting the truth out there, and a lot of my energy has been going in that direction and supporting people in that direction. Kind of skirted around this in the last video, saying that my background before I worked in spirituality, so to speak, and began the path of the heart was very much as a truth bringer and illuminating the truth. And then really I went onto the path of spirituality and opening the heart, and really went down the road of heading towards becoming a unified being and encouraging other people to begin a journey into the heart to become more unified and conscious themselves, so that they could make their decisions and discern and see the truth for themselves. So the two paths, shall we say, overlap, but of the last few months, most of my energy has been going in to supporting others that are really getting the word out there, because at the end of the day, my primary role is to help awaken as many people as possible, which I've kind of contributed to over the last several years, and that's been a very strong drive in me. So I've had a lot to balance this end, because a lot of my drive has been going in that way, and that's been very, very strong in me because it is part of who I am. But also I've had to deal with some phenomenally challenging health situations, which, let's say, I'm managing, but I have at times been extremely unwell, and I keep kind of fluctuating and sort of holding my own, but it's been incredibly difficult. But I feel quite optimistic. I'm sort of getting there, sort of, and I've got a lot of help with that. I'm going to give a big shout out to a couple of people here that have been helping me with that. There's this old-fashioned saying I have, if you're a heart surgeon, you can't always operate on your own heart. You need someone to help you with that. And again, I've given these guys, one of them a shout out before. That's Paula Jackson, whose website I will give a link below this one. She's a really good healer and channels sort of psychic surgeons that heal through her. So she's been a tremendous help over the last so many months again. And also a dear colleague, we used to work together, so I haven't seen him for a while, but anyway, we've reconnected, called Peter Steedman, and I'm going to reference his website below. Obviously, and another phenomenal healer, great medium, but also dips his toe into other areas to do with mediumship. So I'll give you the link to his website below this video, and the link to Paula's. And they are, very genuine, good-hearted people that really have been working a long time in it. Peter has been working in that for something like 35 years, so they're really good people. So I'm going to give them a shout out. So oh my gosh, I mean, there's so much to talk about, and this has been another thing that's been keeping me off camera. My YouTube channel has been dedicated for the last several years really to that path of the heart, and has become a template within itself in one of the ways in which to do it. And I really have put my heart on the line in this channel and really been as transparent and honest as I can possibly be. What you see is what you get. And sometimes that comes at a price, you know, being that open and that transparent, but it's something that I have done. And again, since we hit about May, June of this year, you know, there's so many things that I really feel so passionate about talking about, and not sure that my own YouTube channel is the vehicle in which to do that. It might be that I collaborate with someone on something somewhere down the line, which is the vehicle to do that, independent of my own YouTube channel, or it might be my YouTube channel develops. I don't know. I get a feeling, my gut feeling doesn't go with that. I get a feeling that you know, maybe I'll develop something else and it might be another channel as well. I don't know. I don't know. But there's a strong part of me that would like to talk about so much of the stuff that I have, let's say, an awareness and a knowing on, and I'm not quite sure if to use my existing YouTube channel as a vehicle to do that. I mean, as you obviously know, a lot of YouTubers are getting shut down and being censored, and so much of what I want to talk about, you know, could well come under that remit. So it's another reason to give it, you know, a really big thought. Obviously I've worked very hard over the last several years. Most of it has been an absolute joy. Talking about the YouTube channel now, within the next week or 2 weeks I would have hit the 2 million views, which to some big YouTubers may not sound much, but like I said, that's been through blood, sweat and tears, literally. So I'm quite proud of that. I'm quite proud that in some ways my work touched 2 million people, and that's quite a legacy. I'm quite proud of that one, really. Because whatever happens, you know, I can look back and say, well, I did that, and I'm very pleased with that. So anyway, I'll crack on. And for those that are supporting me on Patreon, I have a very tiny group of people. Thank you so much. Thank you for those that stuck with me while I haven't been up there for months, because I just really haven't been able to do it. Haven't been well enough, but not just that. When a few things changed, it meant my uploading time on videos became 3 times as long. So instead of a video taking 2, 3, 4 hours, it's now taking 12 hours or something to upload, or taking all night to upload. Which is very frustrating. So if I do a Patreon one and one for YouTube, you know, it's like 24 hours, 30 hours to upload, which is, I don't know if it's deliberate or not, you know, if it's being sat on, my YouTube subscribers and figures are being sat on. Recording is just affecting me, or if it affects everyone. Such are the times we live in. But for those on Patreon, I will get back to doing some stuff on Patreon. I just haven't really been well enough to do it. I sit here now and I've still got hospital crutches next to me. I've been on crutches now since June. So I've spent a lot of time up and down different things. In the United Kingdom, most of the medical facilities basically are shut. Unless you've got COVID, nobody wants to know. So it took about 3.5 months to even get anywhere to get some help really for that. So it's been quite a year this year, like it for me, like it has for a lot of people, but hey, c'est la vie. These are the times of transformation. So like I say, there's a number of reasons for that, you know, closure of the old, you know, processing one's old stuff and bring it into a 0-point field of energy, getting wired up and connected with old template, helping on behalf of the collective. A number of reasons, you know, stuff getting ascending, the body trying to upgrade, and the list goes on. So I'm sure a lot of you have got the same kind of thing going on, but like I say, such are the times we live in, and as I've stated before, we're only at the beginning of those times. This isn't the main year, 2020. We haven't really even got going yet. So many shocks are coming, huge global changes everywhere and any way that you can imagine. Amazing, fantastic things also coming, bursting through all of this, with the eventual result that we will, just as we've been talking about, and had an awareness of for a very long time now, right back, to me personally, since the 1990s, early 1990s, we will at last have the world that we have been speaking about, creating our reality, and let's say a kind, compassionate, humanitarian, global world, Earth, which is all intricately interwoven with that we have all wanted for such a long time. So launching into what I'm going to say, which is so connected to the title of this video will be called Less Than Zero. What do I mean by less than zero? I mean less than 0 point. So if we go back over some of the hints that I've been and seeds I've been sowing on the YouTube channel about 0 point. 0 point being a state of our consciousness that we reach during our journey through the rungs of the heart. So I say that the rungs of the heart, that it's almost like inside the portal of your heart consciousness, there's like I call them rungs of the heart, like a ladder really. And as one moves through their process of evolution in the rungs of the heart, one hits, let's say, a state of consciousness that one can not just access, but one becomes it. It's all about the becoming of it in this day and age now. The embodiment is a very solid, physical, tangible period of time we're in now, where it's all about the embodiment. One such rung or point of evolution in one's consciousness is 0 point. So you could say to me, is 0 point a state of being? Is 0 point a state of awareness? Is 0 point a state of consciousness? Is 0 point an actual place? And I would say to you that all of those analogies or all of those examples are correct. And that is a state of consciousness, but you can also access it inwardly, all happening inside in here in the heart portal. You can access it inwardly and it can be experienced as a tangible place. Now, as you know, if you're a regular listener or regular viewer of my channel or work over the years, you will know that everything I talk about, share, is experiential, which means I have experienced it, lived it, done it firsthand, or experienced it through working with thousands and thousands of people over the last 22 year period. So 0 point is not just let's say it's a state of awareness and consciousness that one hits within one's portals of one's heart, the portal of one's heart. But it is also, let's say, a place that one can visit within the portals of one's heart. And I know this because I've actually visited it. So when I visited it, I wasn't aware in that moment that it was a plane of existence called 0 point. But it was incredibly beautiful, and I met up with some, it was like, the easiest way to describe it, it was a plane of existence, an inner plane of existence linked to inner earth. So inner chambers of one's inner heart portal, 0 point state of consciousness, but also linked to inner earth. And when I visited this place, which I was conscious and awake, and some friends that are very spiritually aware, let's say, were holding space for me, and I visited this place, so I'm conscious, so I'm awake. It's not like I'm not doing it in a dream state. It was really interesting, and there were different parts to it, and incredibly beautiful, and there were different people there. But it was really interesting. It was really interesting because towards the end of it, while I was there, so I was doing some different stuff, let's say having some kind of experiences, and let's say healing experiences there, and knowledge awareness experiences. What was really interesting is towards the end of it, I saw this woman walking towards me, and I thought, I know that woman. And I'm not, for purposes of this video, going to name who this woman is, but I definitely recognized her instantly, and I thought, I think I know who that is. And I didn't voice it. I just said, she seems familiar, but I had a fair idea who it was then. And the really weird thing is, actually in personality, how do I put this? I'm not actually very keen on this person in personality, and they are out in the public arena themselves, but some of the information, not all of it, some of the information I resonate with, don't really resonate with the way it's presented either, but everyone's different. And often I have got exactly the same information at the same time as this person has. And I've noticed this over the last couple of years. It's not been a recent thing. So when I thought, I'm sure that's them, but they look a bit different, and they're in this 0 point plane of existence. So at that time, I didn't know it was called 0 point plane of existence, but I knew it was a different place, different plane of existence. So I had this confirmed to me because within 24 hours of that experience, the same person that I'd seen in the 0 point plane field actually brought out some work in the public arena, and then actually talked about the place that I'd just been, and I'd actually met them at the 24 hours before. So that did bring a big smile to my face, because I thought, yeah, okay, so we're on, we're on the game here, we're on to it, so to speak, we're on the ball. And then since then, again, I'm not going to name them, someone else. Again, these are both females. Also, dreaming of having long conversations with them, and actually somewhere else in another plane of existence. So I think what's happening is many people at this point in time, we're meeting up in the etheric planes, we're meeting up in dream state, we're meeting up in different states of awareness, we're meeting up on those 0 point field plane of existence, A, because we can now, and B, because there's so much going on, and all of us that I'm listing here, I mean, we're all concerned with getting the truth out to humanity and helping humanity wake up, and assist with that. So that's been very interesting. So why I've called this video Less Than Zero is I have noticed in my work a huge acceleration in people. Well, you've got the two sides of the coin. You've got the acceleration in work with people that have really burst through into higher rungs of consciousness within their heart. So they've awoken more, they have become more conscious, and are going through vast changes of shifts of perception. Their old programming since the day they were born is falling away. There's been changes in states of their awareness. Let's say the mask has fallen away from them. Their eyes are wide open, they're seeing through the eyes of the heart, and so much change is happening for them there. But there's also just as many, which I've seen a real huge divide here on the other side of the coin, that have triggered horrendously onto the other side of the fence, where they have become completely immersed in the programming of their childhood or their life, or completely immersed in that triggering, and have actually, let's say they were on a quantum heart 0 point timeline, all happening within them, this unified state. They were heading towards that, and then they hit a certain point and completely came off that, and like a train, I often use the analogy of a train going in one direction and then suddenly it turns, it diverts off. Now, one has to be very careful when one diverts off majorly. Everybody has little diversions off where they get caught in their old patterns and programs and emotions and pain bodies, and it's a question of processing their own stuff. Sometimes they have to get assistance with this, sometimes not. You know, there's plenty of assistance out there to help with this, you know, including with someone like me. And yes, I am still doing sessions, and I'm taking bookings for November as we speak, because October's fully booked. So I'm taking bookings now for November and December for sessions. But when somebody diverts off, everybody diverts off a little bit, but I've seen people divert off majorly, do a 365-degree turn, because they've got entangled in triggering to do with their own stuff, their own childhood or own traumas, particularly trauma related, this stuff, and they can't see that they've kind of blindsided themselves, and then they point hugely at the trigger for who they feel is causing this in them. And of course, there are numerous triggers to do this, to take one off into a different direction, but the most biggest, really, the biggest trigger on planet Earth at the moment to do that is actually President Trump. So President Trump is a huge catalyst for change, and an extremely brave soul to be such a catalyst for change that he stands up in front of the world and gets so much let's say abuse and blame. And you know, I've actually heard out of the mouth of people over the last few weeks, they've actually said it, you know, at word for word, how he has caused this in them and that in them, and actually they're referring to something that happened in their childhood, but somehow they look at him and hold him responsible for it. Of course, it's not his at all. So that's a classic example of a massive world catalyst that actually is a catalyst ultimately for phenomenal good, that people with so much programming or unfinished old energies running through their system, either them personally, or they've taken it on behalf of the collective, or they're taking it for their families, that people get entrenched with, and they literally cannot see the reality of that as him as a person. They are just immersed in their own hatred, anger, trauma, bitterness, and can't actually see the reality of it. And I've been quite shocked how much I've seen that in the last few months particularly, and it's escalated consistently and significantly. And I've mostly seen it, without exception, in females. Most of those females have been American females, but I have seen it also in females in other countries. And it comes down to one thing. It goes well beyond the level of a personality, like I don't like his personality. It's much, much bigger than that. There is massive energies behind this. And he's a massive, he's a huge example, massive catalyst to bring up this stuff. And the challenge here is to move through one's stuff and traumas without hurling it on the vast mirror, in this case Trump, that brought it up. And I see people, you know, moving away from their unified state of being and diverting off like train tracks onto either hitting a buffer, hitting a wall, or completely going the wrong way. When I say going the wrong way, if we were in a different point of history, going the wrong way, let's say, would be a challenge, but it would not be anywhere near as significant as it is now. We are in a 0 point, big bang point of history, where you are either going in the direction inwardly of your quantum heart, 0 point planes of existence. You're either going that, or you're going in a different direction. And like I say, everybody dips their toe in and out of that, so don't panic. But I'm talking about extreme examples of this. People that are pretty manic, I have to say, manic and full of such hatred, and they're not even rational. Rational thought has been lost because they're so immersed in their own trauma and own stuff that it all has got well beyond balance and proportion. So 0 is a neutral neutral state of equilibrium and balance. They've gone well beyond that and triggered off somewhere else. Now, it's not just Trump that's causing that, but he's probably one of the main ones in the world, and the changes there. And in a good way, he hasn't caused people to react like this. He's stood up there, and people's reaction is way beyond not liking him as a person. This is much bigger than that. Take it from one who reads energy for a living. Way bigger than that. This is much bigger than that. So the ultimate, let's say, highest outcome and path is to be propelled to become more conscious, more unified in an inner state of union, inner state of balance, 0 point state of your own consciousness. Then you move your way, let's say, within the rungs of consciousness in the heart. People that have a lot of unresolved stuff that they haven't dealt with, or there's a lot in the family, ancestral, that they've suddenly been walloped with. And because these are the times we live in, you know, you're clearing for you, you're clearing, helping for the clearing for the family. It's the more conscious ones in the family, let's say, tend to be picking up on a lot of this stuff. I don't feel it's going to last much longer. And because that's a role many of us have been fulfilling for a long time, but people will have to take responsibility for their own stuff and their own work in that sense. But it's something that has been happening, let's say, historically. And these are people, like I say, that have been completely, they've been really coming away from the path of their own heart at that point. And let's say the danger at this point is everybody has wobbles like this. It's called being human. It's called being on a path to the heart. It's called ascension. Where the dangerous point is when people are extreme examples of this, which I'm starting to see now in people, and that they have to be very careful not to. They're so entrenched that they almost like magnetically loop into that inverted artificial grid. I could say inverted artificial kind of black grid, for want of an expression, that will take one completely away from one's heart and just immerse one in pain and anger and misery, and just get them as far away from their heart as possible. And of course, if we're in a different period of time, sometimes people, you know, cycle around these loops of suffering and then come out again, you know, like rag dolls in the washing machine. But because we're in this unique period of time, it's not taking on the same form. What I'm saying is there's a much bigger, you're walking a tightrope. If you go down into that direction, into that artificial grid now, the danger is that you don't come back from that artificial grid, and then that's what you've signed up for. It's a little bit like, you know, deciding not to follow the path of love, and not to walk into the light, but to go in the opposite direction and kind of follow really into the dark. And some people do this deliberately, but most people it's quite accidentally. I mean, you do have deliberate world players, shall we say, that are deliberately, let's say, selling their soul in a way to go down that route for what all that it promises, which is a load of old hoo-ha, what it promises. And we are in a state here where ultimately the quantum heart timeline will win out, and all that malevolent darkness promised will be lost to those people, because the quantum reality is the reality. It succeeds, and we know it succeeds in its higher form. And we know we're working towards that now, en route to it, on track, if you like. But those that, let's say, the ordinary man and woman in the street that are tripping and falling, it's like a minefield into that direction, how one disentangles oneself fairly reasonably quickly from that is one has to immediately look at themselves, not keep pointing the direction, the finger and the hate and the rage at who one feels is making them feel like that. I mean, I can promise you, I've actually heard the words come from people. I can't go into details. I've actually heard the words come out of people's mouths as if they were talking to their own abuser or attacker, and that's been something in their life, and they've directly put that on Trump's shoulders, for example. It's quite extraordinary to see. So he's a main example of people are using him in that way and not even seeing they're doing it, because there is, in that example, a massive big picture there, behind the scenes that man is doing. I mean, that alone is a phenomenal act of service that he's doing. To stand up there and take that amount of shit being thrown at you is quite extraordinary. But there is a lot more behind the scenes that he's doing, let's say, for the quantum heart timeline. But I'm not going to dig too deep down that rabbit hole now. But he's a classic example of it. So less than zero, people dip their toes around this, and like I say, to get part of your processing, part of deprogramming yourself, part of becoming conscious is to have these little stumbles. I mean, it's normal, it's what happens to everybody, and you find your way back to that place of balance and you clear what you're stumbling over, particularly if they're repeating themes again. But if you found you've dived headlong for weeks, months or years into something that is, you know, really tearing you up inside, and it's gone into bitterness and resentment and hatred, and you're pointing it all in one direction, you have to, unless you want to stay in that inverted grid, which you're, you know, on track to do, those of you that are finding you're doing that, is you have a chance, you know, you very quickly now got to look at that and look at where the old historical stuff within you, particularly trauma to the human psyche and body and soul, is massive. I mean, I've always been exposing that on my channel. I'm going to go into it more. And there are people that are specialised around trauma as well, you know, releasing trauma out of one's field. So much of humanity is getting caught up around that. And like I say, you don't want to really be anything within yourself less than zero, because as you hit that 0 point plane of existence within yourself, of course, that's phenomenal, because you can then build upon that. It is a place of balance. It's a place of neutrality. When I say neutrality, it doesn't mean to say you don't have feelings or passions about things. It means that within yourself and within your heart, you're like a cork, like if you popped a bottle of champagne and a cork came off. Whatever happens when you dip down this way a little bit, dip this way a little bit, you're always coming back up to the middle. You're always coming back up to the middle. You're always coming back up to the middle. You're always coming back up into the heart. You're always coming back there, which is the most important thing. You've got to come back to that place of equilibrium. You've got to come back to that place of balance. You've got to come back to that 0 point. And to get to 0 point in the first place, and to sort of maintain that cork-like balance there, you have to be looking at your historical knee-jerk reactions, your historical patterns and programmings. I know it's hard. I know it's hard when you've been brainwashed your entire life, brainwashed by a culture, brainwashed by a country, brainwashed by an upbringing, brainwashed in every sense of the word, and I mean that word entirely. You are going to be the last one to see it. And I've seen evidence of that, like I say, with people over the last few weeks. You know, I'm going to use the American culture as an example again, you know, before I finish here. I personally love America. I have lineage in America. A big part of me in soul is America, American shaman. I have actual ancestral lineage with America, and that would be a country that I would seriously consider living in one day if it were possible. So I can say, as someone with those connections, but also back from it a bit as an outsider, and I have a huge amount of my clients are American. I work with clients all over the world, but a huge amount are American. Again, you know, I've pointed this out to people over the last few weeks because they've never thought of it this way. Since kindergarten, the American culture is swearing allegiance to something, swearing allegiance to a flag, swearing allegiance to a country. In kindergarten, in diapers, before you even understand what you're swearing allegiance to, that's a form of programming. Now, I'm using this as an example, and some of you might be triggered by what I just said, but it is programming. So if you saw that, if you were sitting watching television in America and you're American, and you sat and watched another culture in diapers swearing allegiance to something, you'd say, "Oh God, they're under control. They're brainwashed." But your country does that. You're swearing allegiance to something when you're in diapers. So that's not a criticism. I'm trying to throw some illumination onto the fact that these kind of things happen to everyone, and we're always the last to know. You know, sometimes people don't know for a whole lifetime, but these kind of, in that case, it's almost like from someone, like I say, with connections to America, but let's say outside of it as well at the moment, is I could say that there's a lot of displacement of people's feelings, almost as to looking at their president as a member of their family or as their father, or almost as a god, as they entangle their own identity up with, like, for example, a president. And I've seen this loud and clear. I've seen it really clearly. It's easy to see it when you're not in the middle of it yourself. Like I say, we all have our own examples of it. You know, United Kingdom, oh my goodness. I mean, we're in the hornet's nest over here. So much change has got to happen here yet. It's very heavy duty stuff going on over here, and a lot of malevolence to be cleared yet. That's an absolute fact. And our country overall it's not, you know, it's got a long way to go yet in this process that's happening at the moment, and it will be okay in the end, but it won't fare as well as some other countries, for example, because we are in the hornet's nest here. And actually America, as long as America keeps following the path of the heart and clearing its stuff and makes the right choices, let's say, in terms of everything, certainly in terms of your election and everything, makes the right choices for the bigger picture, and as long as they do that, it will be an easier, neither route's going to be easier route than if America doesn't. If America doesn't, it's going to be a longer, bumpier ride. So what would have taken maybe 3-4 years will maybe take 6, 7, 8 years, and a lot more suffering. Of course, again, you know, this is going to trigger a lot of people, but, you know, what is the right choice for America at the moment for your highest outcome, not just for your country, but for all of us? Your highest outcome actually is Trump. I mean, he always was. You know, that's a story within itself. That's not a belief system. That's a knowing. That's a knowing. So, you know, it's kind of watch this space, really. So he is someone capable of keeping along that quantum heart timeline, keeping along that. So anything you choose away from that is less than 0 point. Less than 0 point is not the end of the world, but my God, it is a minefield, and it's going to take twice as long. But hey, let's hope. We know the final outcome, quantum heart timeline reality, creational reality. Let's hope, let's say, that enough people in the world, but particularly enough people in America, because you are, let's say, a model as for the 0 point creationary world quantum heart grid that we're stepping into, as long as you make the right choices. Let's hope you do that. And of course, how one makes the right choices is they clear their own stuff. You can't possibly see through the eyes of the heart if you're not in the eye, in the heart. You will be making your choices from programming and brainwashing and everything that goes with that. You know, you will be making those choices from triggering and not from 0 points. So don't make any choices that are less than 0. It's never been more important. But hey, one way or another, we're going to get there in the end anyway. Let's not go the long way round. I'm tired of going the long way round. I've had a life of going the long way round. Let's go the direct route. Let's head for the heart. Let's go for that 0. We don't want anything less than 0. On that note, I will love you and leave you. I hope to be back on camera soon. I would like to come back up and have a regular presence on camera again. Like I say, I know there's a lot happening for you guys. There's been a lot happening for me as well. And hopefully I will see you soon. So I'm going to love you and leave you. Take care. And until we meet again, peace out. Bye.